Sionagad, Oshasahia, and Wado. Hello all, good evening, and thank you for watching. So this is day 64 of Transformation of America, the True Life Story of a CIA Mind Control Slave by Kathy O'Brien with Mark Phillips. And we are working our way through the Victim of the System timeline. We're on August 7th, 1990. After only 72 hours since her release from VIP, Kelly's documented programmed respiratory failure and parentheses triggered by memory, which surfaced naturally upon being reunited with me, resulted in her being admitted to Vanderbilt Hospital's emergency room, where again she failed to respond to conventional medicines, but responded instead to psychological intervention. Subsequently, it was ordered by Vanderbilt that Kelly be placed in the Tennessee mental health system. Around midnight, and by police escort, Kelly was transferred to Tennessee Mental Health Institute for evaluation and referral. Exhausted, weary, and frightened, Kelly was viciously interrogated by Dr. Vassell, V-A-S-S-E-L, Vassell, I don't know, until she vomited and collapsed. Irate over his insane line of questioning, such as underlined, "Why? Are you crazy?" I defended Kelly and her dissociativeness, and he threatened to lock me up. Kelly was transferred to Cumberland House, where I would not be permitted to see her for 48 hours. August 9th, 1990, when I finally saw Kelly at Cumberland House, they told me she had not moved from her bed since her arrival. She was sitting in her bed, not blinking, talking, etc., in a dilapidated room covered in satanic graffiti, complete with blood smears on the wall, torn curtains, wrecked furniture, and no care. Appalled and horrified, I attempted to comfort Kelly while Mark Phillips photographed and scrubbed the blood from the wall. Okay. I met with Kelly's so-called resident psychiatrist, Dr. Gaboy, Gabboy, who said that there was no such thing as mind control or ritual abuse. I informed him that the pentagrams 666, suicide, murder, and cannibalism graffiti on Kelly's walls and floor were indeed satanic. He argued that Cumberland House had never had any ritual abuse victims until I told him we would see if the press agreed with him. They painted the rooms within 24 hours. September 1990, I immediately and desperately sought resolution to Kelly's mental health predicament and met with politically appointed Tennessee Commissioner of Mental Health, Eric Taylor. He assured me that Kelly's dilemma would be resolved. Federal law stipulates that in order for a child to be transferred out of state, in parentheses where supposedly qualified rehabilitation was available, a diagnosis to support the transfer must be obtained within the state. Since there was no one in Tennessee treating MPD/DID with classified military/NASA mind control programming in children, there was no one to diagnose her disorder. Commissioner Taylor gave the impossible task of locating a physician to diagnose Kelly to the Department of Mental Health, and parentheses DMH worker Marsha Willis, W-I-L-L-I-S. Kelly remained untreated at Cumberland House during the ensuing 8-month statewide search by Marsha Willis, who concluded what I knew all along, that there was no one within a state who could diagnose or treat Kelly's MK Ultra mind control abuses. March 1991, Marsha Willis and DMH attorneys met with me to resolve Kelly's dilemma by advising me to relinquish custody of Kelly to the Department of Human Services, whereby the state would fund Kelly's transfer to qualified therapy. Okay. I was assured by them and juvenile court workers that Kelly would not become embroiled in a custody battle with Wayne Cox, as he had been named/documented as an abuser by 2 institutions, if I simply made note of this fact, which I did. April 2nd, 1991, Wayne Cox and his Nashville, Tennessee attorney, Bob Anderson, in proceeds immediately paid by my father, Earl O'Brien, filed abuse and neglect charges against me in juvenile court in an effort to regain control of Kelly. Whoa. As a result of Cox's allegations, Kelly and I were immediately denied visitation unless supervised. What? I never contributed to Kelly's abuse, but was unable to protect her from Cox and many others due to my own mind control abuse/existence. Kelly always understood this, and she had witnessed me being tortured and proceeds documented. She and I share a close, open relationship, which is more conducive to two people who have endured great hardships together than a normal mother-daughter relationship, but nevertheless is founded in love and respect. Kelly understood that we had/have much to overcome in order to receive her needed and deserved rehabilitation due to the political prominence of our abusers, and she resented having our mother-daughter conversations monitored, restricted, and limited by court order. April 3rd, 1991, I went back to Tennessee DMH worker Marsha Willis, who informed me that she had had a visit and/or phone call by the feds from the Defense Intelligence Agency in parentheses DIA, and that my life was in serious peril if I kept talking about Kelly's and my abuse. Therefore, she would not have nothing more to do with our case, okay? This statement, like dozens of others, was covertly captured on audio tape. The DMH has since opposed me in juvenile court for 2 years. April 1991 to 1993. April 1993. Violations of laws and civil rights in conjunction with DIA's psychological warfare and the CIA's containment tactics have been endured by Kelly and me both. Kelly is now a victim of the so-called justice and mental health systems and still awaits qualified rehabilitation for the MK Ultra mind control abuses she has endured. April 9, 1991. I was denied the right to defend myself in court and could not afford an attorney. I was appointed a legal services in parentheses state paid attorney, but not until after Cox had intervened and pressed false charges in parentheses with no evidence / documentation to back him. And restraining orders were placed against me. Plus, I was put on probation because I did not have a permanent address beyond the legal PO box residency that Commissioner Rucker, R-U-C-K-E-R, had established in order to protect me. Additionally, I met with DHS worker Ernest Fentress, F-E-N-T-R-E-S-S, at the juvenile court, who was brought in by state specifically, or especially for this case, from Sumner County, and he told me that I would lose custody of Kelly and that she would be placed with abuser Wayne Cox, in parentheses. This was before he even investigated our case. He ordered that I undergo psychiatric and psychological testing, although I had never been named as an abuser and that Cox should not. Additionally, Judge Shookoff, S-H-O-O-K-H-O-F-F, ruled that all court proceedings would occur behind closed doors and ruled that the, in parentheses, sympathetic press and local advocate Edith Hammons, H-A-M-M-O-N-S, president of Organized Victims of Violent Crime, leave the courtroom and not return. I was not permitted any support / witnesses on Kelly's in my behalf and sat in court with my court-appointed attorney on one side of the room while 4 attorneys, Cumberland House staff, DHS workers, etc. sat on the opposing side. April 1993, none of the medical and psychiatric records obtained outside of the state of Tennessee were considered admissible in court. Thus, Kelly was to begin counseling in Tennessee with Janie, J-A-N-I-E, Adams at Luton's, L-U-T-O-N-S, Mental Health Center, in parentheses, who, along with juvenile court judge Andy Shookoff, is currently involved in scandal for labeling sexually abused children as sexual offenders and thus locking them up in detention rather than providing therapy. Janie Adams told us to report Kelly's sexual abuse to Metro Police, or I would be the one prosecuted for the abuse of Kelly, for the abuse Kelly's Tennessee-based sex exams might prove. In parentheses, I knew from experience that Metro Police Department was heavily involved in the very political corruption from which we escaped due to Nashville's cocaine business, as the ex-police chief Joe Casey, C-A-S-E-Y, Mayor Richard Fulton, F-U-L-T-O-N, and soon to be convicted / imprisoned Sheriff Fate, F-A-T-E, Thomas. That name, right? Hopefully he met his fate, you know what I mean? Didn't get away with all this junk. I'm not wishing his death. I'm saying I hope he got his comeuppance, you know what I mean? Were present during a covert operations meeting involving drugs and arms shipments to Saudi Arabia. We were referred to homicide detective Pat Postilione, oh man, this is hard, right? P-O-S-T-I-G-L-I-O-N-E, a close friend of Janie Adams and neighbor of Alex Houston's. Kelly was taken to Metro General Hospital by Janie Adams. In parentheses, I was forbidden to be there during her exam. Kelly reports she was roughly examined, and then in parentheses, they tore her vagina and declared her not abused. Kelly was then threatened under hypnosis, in parentheses, a lame attempt at hypnotic programming documented by Janie Adams, and told she would die if she ever again said Alex Houston abused her. Janie Adams also claimed that Kelly was not sexually abused. Thanks to the forethought of Mark Phillips, I had obtained additional in-state medical records further proving her sexual abuse prior to Janie Adams' teaming up with Metro PD in a classic cover-up. Kelly was forbidden by Cumberland House social worker, aka warehouse person, Charlene Johnson, in association with her friend / cohort, Janie Adams, to ever discuss her past. Kelly was punished when and if she did speak of her past, which is the worst therapy imaginable for a diagnosed dissociative. When Kelly ceased talking about her past as instructed because, as she says, she had to live at Cumberland House. Cumberland House stated in court that Kelly was not abused because otherwise she would talk about it. Kelly drew several graphic pictures depicting sexual abuse, including one of the torture dungeon at Youngstown, Ohio's Charm School, in parentheses, a sex slave training school overseen by U.S. Congressman Jim Traficant, Traficant. These pictures, clearly depicting sexual abuse and mind control trauma, were rejected by the court, as Janie Adams testified that Kelly made it up. At the same time, Metro Police threatened Mark Phillips' life. Pat Postiglione told me that former Mayor Richard Fulton and former ambassador to France Joe Rogers would see to it that I was silenced through threats to my life. Mark Phillips and I provided these covertly taped recorded threats to everyone we knew, sparking an investigation by Time/Life magazine. April 15, 1991, prominent Nashville gynecologist Dr. Richard Presley, Presley, denounced the Metro scam exam of Kelly, and reaffirmed her sexual abuse, as well as documented my vaginal mutilation carving, in parentheses, carved for Senator Byrd's perversion. These reports were again ignored by the court. Spring/early summer 1991, Commissioner Rucker arranged for me to meet with Governor McWhorter's, MCWHERTERS, legal assistant Bernie Durham, DURHAM, for resolution of Kelly's dilemma. Out of sheer desperation, I pled for help for Kelly. Bernie Durham told me Governor McWhorter did not address such issues and therefore would not help. In parentheses, I had been forced under MK Ultra to work at McWhorter's initial campaign, as he was being strategically moved into place for rubber stamping and implementation of global education, and therefore was not surprised at this response. Time/Life arranged a meeting for Mark Phillips and me with DHS manager Charles Wilson, and he's currently involved in the same scandal with Lutton, Lutons, Lutton's Janie Adams, and juvenile court judge Shookoff, whom we did not realize at the time was part of a CIA containment effort. Mr. Wilson only assured me Kelly would never receive therapy. I filed charges against Cox for back child support of $21,000, which only resulted in further charges filed against me in 6th Circuit Court. Judge Thomas Brothers, in parentheses, currently indicted for cocaine conspiracy, violated laws and my rights to uphold Cox's charges, and allow the Department of Mental Health to intercept any money that may be awarded. April 22nd, 1991, I petitioned juvenile court to restrain Cox from having access to Kelly, as he had previously triggered her mind control programming, in parentheses, medically and psychologically documented, and openly threatened to do so again. Documentation from previous institutions, psychologists, psychiatrists, and medical doctors, as well as Kelly's own testimony to the court, my testimony, etc., etc., etc. It literally says that in here. Were all rejected by the court, while Cox was granted unsupervised visitation with Kelly. Kelly and I both had explained how Cox would trigger Kelly, and I had documented in writing with medical records how he had previously triggered/activated Kelly's mind control programming, all to no avail. Social worker Charlene Johnson delivered a letter to Kelly from Cox which contained exactly the methods of triggering we had anticipated and predicted. April 23rd, 1991, despite Kelly's screams, tears, and pleas for help and protection, Cox was granted visitation. Kelly reportedly confronted him with his abuses, including having witnessed his murdering, dismembering, and cannibalizing a human, in parentheses, as documented in previous institutions. Charlene Johnson reported that the meeting went well. Cox's attorney, Bob Anderson, in parentheses, who repeatedly had delivered sophisticated high-level CIA triggers to me in court, which, due to my deprogramming, failed. Also had unsupervised time with Kelly. My attorney was refused visitation. I witnessed the aftermath of Cox's visit with Kelly during my supervised visit overseen by social worker C.C. Raiston, R-A-I-S-T-O-N. Kelly was screaming and crying and asked C.C. what she must do to be heard and thus be protected from her occult serial killer abuser Cox. She expressed confusion over being forced to visit him while not being permitted to see Mark Phillips, who had rescued her, and why she had to have supervised visits with me. Kelly expressed confusion over the reversal of so-called justice. She asked, "Why am I locked up while my abusers remain free?" So we'll end it right there. Dun da go honey kage you in a kuchanaske till we meet again. Love you, mean it.